Dearest gentle listeners, you are listening to the Ladies Bridgerton, the talk of the ton. We are your effervescent hosts, your neighbourhood-friendly Kiwi, Tash from Middle-earth, New Zealand.
And Patty, Regency romance enthusiast, currently writing her high vibe loved era.
Settle down onto your favourite settee as we delve into the lives of the elite and illustrious ladies, lords, and royalty of the ton. This Bridgerton podcast is two friends talking romance, symbolism, Easter eggs, and deep diving into the connections of our favorite characters. We cover both book, TV series, and notable social media, and therefore will contain spoilers.
I'm just typing that in there because you say it all the time now.
I know. And you know what? I want to I think I might do it like a deep diving, like
deep.
And then the next week will be deep dive. Yeah, change it up each week,
Yeah, and then one week it has to be like deep diving. Tangent squad, we're silly.
I was like, we're definitely not tangenting already.
We just said this will be more streamlined because we've already tangented enough. No, we didn't.
No, there is always more tangent in us.
Yes. So Tangent Squad, we are discussing the Queen's Ball still, and we may squeak out a photo finish for a two-parter. Or will we need to push it to 3? Time will tell.
At this rate, it might even be a 4.
Oh, shit. We do plan to start, we do want to talk about the lovers that were truly inspired by the Queen's Ballet, which may include some surprise couplings to discuss that aren't as obvious as the others.
Yes. Oh, excuse me. I'm not, our last recording, because we are recording back to back today. So we do actually have to keep a time crunch today because I need to pick up my child from daycare in 1 hour, 55 minutes. And I've still got to drive there to pick him up. So we must make haste into today's episode. Tangents to the minimum. 29 minutes in. So our timestamp that we are jumping in to this episode is 29 minutes for all those lovely listeners that are following along with our tangents. And this is where we see Francesca take to the dance floor with Lord Samudani. Now, I looked to see if there were any other couples on the dance floor that we might recognize, but no, as we kind of discussed a little bit in a previous episode, they are all unknown cast, and I wonder if it's easier to have extras who already have dance experience rather than actors that they would have to teach. But I do find it interesting that at no point up until now have I seen, we discussed, you tangented, and I was like, I've already written the notes for this, Patty, and you were like, look, I haven't seen them, and I'm like, I've written the notes for it, you're ruining my future notes. But it's fine, I'll go over it again. I just find it interesting that at no point...
I'm just going to say, great minds, that's all. Great minds think alike.
I just find it interesting that at no point up until now have I seen Lord Cho and Emma Kenworthy on the dance floor showing any formal courtship. I even spied them in the same circles back at Lord Fuller's event, but they weren't actually talking at all. They were just sort of in each other's near vicinity, but were each kind of turned faced away from each other, talking to different crowds of people. If there was any courtship at all, it was an extremely rushed one.
Yeah, there's no indication. The first time we even see them together,
I think
is at that church.
I honestly think that it could be a caught in the cupboard kind of a situation because we do not see them.
I don't put that past Emma Kenworthy.
No.
That girl has goals.
She goes after what she's a queen and she goes after what she wants, and she seems to be making a fine man out of Lord Cho. He wasn't my favorite to start with, but once we see him engaged to Emma Kenworthy, he does seem to be very doting and very happy with his choice. So I will give him the benefit of the doubt that he is going to be a former rake and not a continued one.
Yeah, because considering what he said in season 2, wed, bed, and bread, that statement was Lord Cho.
It was.
I hope that's not the case because he does look at her in the church very adoringly, I
He
think.
does.
So,
It seems to be a love
yeah.
match, but only time shall tell. I mean, I don't think that they will be a reoccurring, but I did actually quite like having them as a background kind of story that didn't
Mm.
take away from. But I do wish that we
I
had.
liked Emma. I liked having Emma Kenworthy in the tub
I
this season because
Probably my
we
favorite debutante.
saw, first of all, we saw Deb that is very similar to Penelope in terms of,
Size.
being not being a, curvy and voluptuous and everything, but she's like the opposite of Pen, where she's very assertive and, very direct with what she wants. And I think that it helps us see that the only reason Penelope is where Penelope is because she has been lacking in confidence. Like, confidence was the key for her, because Emma Kenworthy has confidence in spades, my friends.
Oh yeah.
Spades and spades and spades.
You know
Like,
what?
she's wheeling around a wheelbarrow of confidence. She is totally confident.
She has opened up her own hardware store selling spades.
She's opened up, like, if she were a TikToker, she'd be giving you a workshop on confidence. Like, probably more so doing a better job than Colin,
Oh yeah.
honestly, because Collins was a fake workshop.
She can give
Um,
marriage lessons for sure.
yeah, his was a workshop for one. Emma actually would want to teach the public.
Yeah. But I digress. You know, one of the things that I actually found
Colin wasn't
really
in it for the money.
he was
Emma
in
would
it.
have been.
Emma Kenworthy or oh, I can't even. He is Lord Cho worthy of Emma Kenworthy? Only time will tell.
Time will tell. He has to earn her. He
He has
has
to
to
earn our
earn her
girl.
still.
But you know, one of the things I actually find really implausible in this whole scenario is how many young people, and I know that life expectancy was extraordinarily lower than what it is today, but in the books, a lot of these kids, and they are realistically kids still, they're like 28 years old. If their parents were having them at 28, their parents would only be um early to late 50s, maybe 60s if they went through a bit of
Oh
a
no,
rape period.
these kids, like, their parents were having them at
I,
18, 19 years old. So they're in their
exactly.
early 30s or late
No, no,
30s.
no, no. Their mums were, but not their dads, because it's the dads that matter here,
True.
because they are the dads are potentially, 25 to 35 years old, but the mums were 18 to 20 years old. So what I'm saying
Right.
is, in order for these kids to all be lords already, it means their dads have already had passed and the
Sway.
title
Yeah.
has moved on to them. There is an extraordinary amount, because as I have said previously, I believe that Lord Wilding, Lord
Stanton.
Stent, thank you. I was like, and and F Phase 5, I believe that those
Yeah.
three are going to be the instigators
FFF.
of
Triple F.
FFF,
He's
triple F.
triple F.
He's triple F, FFF, F Phase 5. I think that these three are going to be the instigators of the sexual assault attempt against Sophie in season 4. But the thing is in the book, he wasn't even the Lord yet. He was only the Lord's
The son.
son, and most of those guys were not lords yet. They were, and that was kind of the thing, is like Benedict kind of threw that in their faces, was that, like, you can't even throw around your weight of a title because you do not have the title. You are just a little boy still, sort of thing. And
Mhm.
I find it really impractical and implausible that unless every single one of those kids' dads were these 50, 60-year-old geezers having them to a 21-year-old, it's just impractical that every single one of them is already a lord. And I think that's definitely where the fantasy element of Bridgerton comes in.
Well, and I think because that is a fantasy element, they probably play into that by having it be believable, by having all these young lords. So it's
Yeah.
making it sound like all of these women ended up with Lord
A
Greer
lord.
types.
Yes. Well, and I think the thing is I think the reason they have made them all lords already is because if they had, like, Lord Debling, if he were going to be a lord, it would then make his title seem a whole lot a lot less like weight behind it. Whereas Daphne has all
Not
these
if
young.
he's the direct heir.
Yeah, but then
If
they have
he's
to, but then they'd have to wait to inherit, and Portia wouldn't like be throwing around. Oh, she'd have to wait for that influence and whatnot. So I think,
well, they'd still be a trust fund baby.
yeah, but I still think the reason that they've killed off all the dads is specifically so that they can be introduced as Lord
But we
this and
wouldn't
Lord that.
question how few older men there are in the room because it's all the mamas. I mean, let's
Yes,
be real.
yes. Yeah, there is very few older men in the crowds. It is always the mamas. So it's just one of those things that I think they wanted to be able to throw around the titles everywhere, instead of Anthony Bridgerton, soon to be Lord of Bridgerton. It
Yeah,
doesn't quite
soon
sound
to
the
be
same.
Viscount. Yeah, soon
Yeah.
to be Viscount.
Like, did they have a way of like, because you know how when someone enters into a house, you then like, I don't know what the title would be if you are the inheriting son, if you got a like Lord Bridgerton Jr.
They might still be Lord. It might be young.
Yeah, because
That might
like,
be underage.
well, because you know how
No, I
we
think the
now
heir that. Hold on, I'm going to look it up because I think the heir still got called Lord.
would he then be called Master? Like, is that where
Maybe,
that's come
yeah.
from? Because like when Ezra's mail arrives in the mail, he is young Master Bolton. Not to be confused with the Boltons from anyone who has watched Game of Thrones. Please don't confuse our families. We've got a U in our name. We are not savage murderers of babies, okay? We we we
Wow.
we don't feed anyone to the wolves over here unless they deserve it. Okay, well, I will continue on while you look that up because we are on a time crunchy ranch.
Yeah, you
Um,
keep. I said you
as
keep talking. I'll look.
as Violet watches over Francesca on the dance floor, Lord Anderson approaches her with some food, which she declines. Which somehow seemed like a faux pas to me. Patty, you my Regency Queen,
What
can
now?
you look up extra things?
What?
When Lord Anderson approached Violet specifically with a plate of food for her, and she declined it, and she kind of really actually like really dismissed it, like no, they like it seemed like if a male was bringing you food, it seemed intentional.
She's not a debutante though.
I
She's been married,
I
so she
know,
doesn't
but
follow those same rules.
I
She is
still
allowed to say. I think he was showing his intention by bringing
yes,
something. It's
that's what
not
I thought.
lemonade, it's food. He was showing his intention by bringing something. She is not realizing he has intentions at this
Well, because
point.
it felt
And
like
as we discuss later in this conversation, she's focused on Francesca and she
she
tells
was.
him, I have no appetite. So
Yes,
she gave a reason for it. Her reason's very honest. But I think if she would have thought he had intentions, she might have taken a morsel to show
because
her interest as well.
yes,
But she was not thinking that that's what it meant because they're both in a different time of life.
yeah, she is very much in the time where she's so focused on her children that she forgot that she's actually okay. Go, because I want to know.
No, I think, ouch, that's terrible. Okay, it fits, but it's terrible. So you know how when someone says they're the heir apparent, like a kid who is the heir will be called heir apparent to that title.
Hmm.
And this blogger who's typing up this stuff says they think of it as because of how often it was questioned if a
Okay.
child was actually a child of that father,
Yes. Yeah. The parentage. Yeah.
saying his heir is apparently his son. I was like, ouch, that's like a burn that turned into like a phrase we use all the time, but it's
Hmm.
such a burn.
I actually love learning the etymology of words and where they've come from.
Yeah. Okay. And this one it just talks about like saying heir apparent versus heir presumptive, not terms. I probably need to add what
Yeah. So, I
reading.
mean, I think that in this moment, Violet forgot that she is actually a desirable woman as well. I
Mm.
think she has pushed aside desire for so long, and that even though her garden, she said, is in bloom, she forgot that other people may be attracted to the scent of her flower. There's a lot of metaphor in that one.
Yeah.
And I feel like
Can somebody else smell that her garden is in bloom?
is a
And I
little
don't mean in a
bumblebee
gross way.
attracted? No, not in a gross way. But I think that him bringing her food is like, I want to provide for you. I want to take care of you. And I thought it was actually quite a sweet gesture. Like he was being thoughtful. He
The
didn't
heir
just,
is also the heir is also Lord or Lady or Lord.
Okay,
and
that
Duke is
that
your
makes sense
grace.
then.
So the titled person and the heir both are called lord. So these young men may not have dead
Okay,
fathers.
that makes a lot more sense. That is fantastic to know because it was confusing me that so many of that I'm like, are these guys just like, oopsie, I'm not very good with the crossbow. Sorry about that, Dad.
Yeah.
Thanks for the
Yeah, so
title.
if Edmund was alive, he'd be Lord Bridgerton and Antony would be young Lord Bridgerton
Yeah.
because the father's still alive.
Yes.
And the fact we can also assume their fathers are still dead because nobody calls them young lord anything.
Yeah.
Because how would you it's kind of like giving somebody the title of junior in America. I
Well,
don't
that's
know
what
if
I
that
said,
really
junior,
happens too much
senior.
anywhere
Yeah.
else. Yeah, because if you have the exact same name, who do you know that they're talking to? So I think a lot of times they would say young lord for the heir, even if they were like Antony was, let's say his dad was still alive and he was 28, 29, he'd still be young Lord Bridgerton because his father is still alive. So the fact that these young men are not called young lord something, we can safely assume more than likely the father is passed and they have the title.
Okay, that makes sense. So they, as in Violet and Lord Anderson, start to talk about how they are enjoying each other's. No, Violet and Lord Anderson are talking about how they are each enjoying the evening. But then Lord Mark, but why have I changed from
You're Marcus
Lord?
and Lord Anderson.
Yeah. Okay. But then Marcus starts to talk of how much he enjoys the countryside and the simplicity of that life and asks Violet what the affluent do to pass the time in Mayfair. This is when she confesses that most mamas pass the time by meddling in the lives of the unmarried and includes her sister in that list. I sort of
His
wonder
sister.
whether he is kind of inquiring about what to do to pass the time, as in maybe like I
Are,
think this is him kind of feeling out,
are
would you
you
want,
free?
yeah, would you want to go for a stroll with me? You want to go share some ice cream in Mayfair? Like, want to go for
I
a
think
little, he's feeling out
everybody
her
else.
intention.
Well, everybody else has those little placard cards and it says a
Yes.
little bit about the lord or lady on them if you're young.
Yes.
He's trying to find out, like,
What are your
he can't ask his
interests?
sister because he doesn't want his sister
Yeah.
to know yet.
Yeah.
He's trying to find out where he can catch her out in public because what happens in the very next episode? I just happened to run into him while
Yeah.
promenading.
Yes.
So
Yeah.
he figured out where she would be and he showed up there.
It's like in Harry Met Your Mother when Ted is like trying to happen upon like Robin says that she wants a casual relation, like a casual fling kind of relationship, and Ted's like Mr. Commitment King, and he's like trying to be casual, and so he watches her on the news because she's a news reporter. He watches her on the news and then runs to wherever it is that she says that she's at in New York, and then he's all popped out and he arrives like, and then the camera catches him like running into screen, and then he has to like calm his breathing. Oh, I'm just here picking up some baked beans for a party. Like, did you want to attend this party? It's very casual though, very casual. And then the kid in the background's like, why are you puffed out? So he's like, shut up. It's casual. It's casual.
Well, and that's total, this is, I think this part of dating etiquette is never going to die
No.
because trying to find out where the person you like is going to be hanging out so that you can just magically show up there.
Yeah.
Casually run into them and then strike up a conversation or whatever. That's been going on for literally hundreds
Forever.
of years.
Yes.
And it's still a thing.
Or you will ask, oh, so who's attending the party? There's only one person that you're inquiring. And it's like, please pick up the subtleties of what I am saying. Is such and such going to be there?
Yeah. Who else is going to, we're going to, you're wanting to go out to, I mean, back in my day, it was like we'd go to karaoke and then afterwards we'd go to a place that doesn't exist anymore called Country Kitchen. We called it CK. And it'd be like, oh, well, who else is going to be there? And then they'd rattle off and you're like, oh, okay.
Yeah, no thanks. No thanks. No thanks.
Or you'd be like, nah, I'll stay home tonight. Yeah.
But this is where Lord Anderson sort of gives away the status of his relationship with his sister in this moment by being completely surprised and baffled at the information that his sister is a meddler. He likely cannot rectify the woman that she has shown him to be tough and unforgiving as someone who would be a matchmaker of sort. And keep in mind that,
or somebody who's held a grudge against him for all these years. Not that he knew that, but held a grudge against him because being that she wasn't titled like he was, she wasn't male, that she didn't get to choose a spouse.
Yes.
She she had one chosen for her. And to find out she's now playing the chess game
Yes.
totally surprises him because she did not like having that choice made for her. That seems very like cognitive dissonance to the
Yeah.
sister he had known. Yeah.
Well, I think it's also that keep in mind that for every person that knows you, they could describe you as a entirely different person. And especially people like you and me who can be a little bit of a social chameleon, where a few people get to see our like true, genuine, unfiltered natures. Whereas for like other people, if you put me in a group of sports people, I can blend myself in. You put me in a room full of emos and goths, I'm like, I know like a couple things that could like pass me by. Same with geeks or science people. I know enough to be able to get by in most social situations. Like you are the person
I
that you are.
definitely can mask too. It's
Yeah,
masking.
but you are the person that you are presenting. Like that person only knows you as you are presenting yourself to them. They don't know what's in your feelings. And so to Lord Anderson, he only knows his sister as the fierce creature that she lets him see, not the like the vulnerable and funny and
Well, and
like
as she's come into her power in her older, wiser age, as most women do, like it's harder for me to mask now. And I choose to only hang out with people that I can be safe with and be myself with because I don't have the energy to mask as much as I did when I was younger. Like I could be in any sort of group and find common ground and make friends. And it was all surface level because it wasn't my true interest, but I could make it work. And I used to say it was a flex, like you would never know if I did not
didn't
like
like
you.
yeah.
You would just never know it. But now it's like, I mean, literally everything I think I can't hide it anymore.
Yes.
It just gets too tiring after a while. And Danbury, if anything, she's tired, especially at this because she bolts early.
Yes. Well, I mean, and we definitely, I mean, I was gonna say we definitely talk about that, but we'll see.
Yeah.
We'll see. Um, okay, so Lord Anderson is quite honest in saying that they are only now just becoming reacquainted and ask who the current target of his sister's molding is. I think by it, like obviously we know that no one in Regency time actually says exactly
What
how it
they
is.
mean.
And so his say like it was as clear as you could possibly be for back then speak for we have been separated for a very long time and we are only just getting to know each other slash maybe hopefully I think I honestly think that he didn't just come to Mayfair to find a wife. I think he actually came to repair his relationship with his sister. Like he is grown now, his children have moved on, and it's something that I think he like because obviously they didn't live as long back then. I think it's something that he wanted to
I
repair.
think he was lonely.
I think he wanted to repair that relationship with sister before they lost the opportunity to.
Yes, and if he was unable to find a suitable match for this season, he at least wanted to create a relationship that would stave off the loneliness because he is pandering and playing to his staff and creating, a kind of a blurred line of relationship to his employees because there's no one else in the room to have discussion.
Yeah.
And not that, and I'm not playing that up like I'm that kind of person. I don't have any serving staff in my life. But
I do so much editing and note writing. Like, am I not your staff at this point?
Wow.
We boss each other around there. I'm like Patty, get out your magnifying.
But I mean, it sounds like when I explain something from that time, like it sounds terrible. Like there needs to be a separation, like one is better than the other. And I don't think one is better than the other. I just think it was the hierarchy, the societal norm was different then. And he is creating a blurred line that most people would look down on.
But you get away with a lot more in the country.
You do get away with a lot more.
But I mean, it's the same. My girlfriend when she was here from Aussie, and she's like, you got a lot of words, and I'm like, she's like, my best friend is also the same. She's like, she's with a kid 24/7, and when she finally gets to be around an adult, she's got all the words to get out because getting to talk to an actual adult. And I mean, I get to see my parents all the time, but it's different when it's talking about bridging about, things that we're super interested in.
Oh, it makes complete sense because even just, being with somebody or having a conversation, finally getting to talk to somebody that literally can talk about anything and never, like nonstop conversation.
Mm-hmm.
I can sit in a room with someone, I can have conversations with them, but there's a lot of people that if I'm not following their line of thought or their line of conversation, there is no conversation.
Yeah. And
I
it's
kind of have to converse with them. And it's not, it's not necessarily a bad thing or whatever, but it's still to me not a fulfilling conversation. It's just,
yeah.
So when you get to have a conversation with somebody that you're both equally invested, those are the fulfilling ones. And those are the ones that are stimulating and they bring joy and you get to actually feel fulfilled in that conversation because it's a true exchanging of ideas and information. And yeah. It's
like Patty and I
feeling.
usually have like a solid hour or two of like chit chat that we have to literally get out before we even, I feel like honestly, if you guys think that our tangents are bad, if we did not do our blah, 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 before we started this podcast,
our word vomit,
word vomit to each other of like, we literally talk all day, every day, send voice notes, but like, it's still different when you're actually getting an immediate back and forth with someone. So like the second that we're actually back and forward, we'll be like, okay, well, can you expand on that voice note or what's going on here? Like,
what's going on with your life? Like,
what was your date period and consistency of your last period? Like we want all the details.
all the details.
All the details.
And you had to go to the TMIest of the TMIest details.
I mean, honestly, is there anything that we don't share at this point? There's not much. We've gotten to the point in our relationship when we don't pause, we don't mute the mic when we
don't hang up
on
to
the
go
phone.
To the restroom.
I mean, just for number ones, like we're never going to be there. Number two is my limit.
No, I have that is.
We have some limits, not many, but some.
Yes, that should be a mystery forever.
We'll keep the romance alive between us, Patty. Don't you worry. So this is where Violet, speaking of romance, keeping it alive, this is when Violet confesses that she herself, oh wait, no, it is another confession. Violet confesses that it is her daughter Francesca that Lady Danbury is molding. But although Lord Summerdowney does seem interested, she can see that Francesca has not quite found that spark in return with him. I think she knows at this point that it's Lord John, but she's like, hopefully it's someone else. And this is when Lord Anderson confesses that his own marriage was not a love match, but that he had grown very fond of his wife and they had a very happy marriage together. I think this was kind of his way of sorry. I think this was his way of trying to ease Violet's mind that even if they're not in love yet, that love can come.
Yeah, I thought this was twofold. I had written in my notes that Lord Anderson is good Violet because he's able to provide her another perspective to help open her eyes to different kinds of romance, and the fact that he's openly talking about love is the only thing that is going to pull her out of the my time is done, time for love is done, because it is shocking for a man to be this open and direct about that subject.
Very. And he from day dot has literally never made his intentions for Violet anything but like explicitly clear.
Yeah, and she just wasn't seeing it. I feel like she's very much like her own kids in that way of like you can be
really you can be really insightful when it's outside of your own realm.
Someone else, And I think that this is also the only way, if you look at all of the romances that we see in the Bridgerton family, eventually, once we see all of them, there's not really a slow burn. And him talking, like, it gives us a slow burn. We get to learn that they're playing out Francesca and John are the slow burn because we needed a slow burn trope.
Because we didn't, because in the book, we don't actually see Francesca falling in love with John. We basically get from, hey, here's my marriage. Oops, he died. And then it's all about Michael.
And that wasn't slow burn. That was like very much unrequited because friends with Colin and
that was he fell
being
first
friends
trope.
To lovers.
That was the he fell first trope. Yeah.
He fell first. Yeah. And it was also the kind of Jesse's girl, I fell for my family member's wife kind of trope. There's all that. There's a reason that you can't be with them.
Yeah.
Like that is, even though they kind of touched on it, they took that in season 2 with him almost marrying Edwina. It's not the same thing, but it's close.
Yeah.
But yeah, John and Francesca, they're kind of announcing in a way that they're the slow burn trope.
Yeah. So this is when Violet confesses that she herself had a love match, so that was all that she had ever known. And it's sort of funny watching them both share their stories, both trying to figure out each other's exact marital status, as they both seem to clearly know that there is some sort of spark between them. So they're just trying to figure out, hey, is this like reciprocated on both sides? Are you both available? Like this is like if you were on MSN or Yahoo chats or whatever, it'd be like the age, sex, location, kind of like a
age, sex,
where you
location.
at? Like what's your situation? Like, you know,
Yeah. Your status, your status, your
yeah.
status, your status. Yeah.
Yeah.
What's your status? What's your
Yeah, I mean, poor kids today where like there's situationships and like I can't even give you all the lingo of it all. And I'm like, it just sounds exhausting. It's so exhausting. I thankfully got together with Steven before Tinder was a thing. And because I never used any Bumble, I didn't use any dating apps whatsoever.
I
Ever.
only used a dating app once, and I will, I've been on dating apps other times, but nothing ever came of it. But my ex, a dating app situation.
See?
That'll, it
No
will never
thanks.
happen
No
again.
thanks.
Ever happen again. I said, and this is exactly what I said coming out of it, because I didn't immediately reach out to Smaug or anything, because I knew like I needed a lot of healing, and I never really intended to reach out.
And then I was like, you should.
But and I had even told you, and it was a romance thing, right? It was a conversation we had about romance. I was like, I don't really ever want to get married again. And I said, what I said was, it would have to be like miraculous, because I have had that meet cute.
Yeah.
I've had that, very kismet meet cute.
And you told me about it.
Yeah. And unless it's that again, unless I can organically meet someone, which I'm pretty much done, folks. I'm toast. There's one person and one person only, and I'm announcing that to the world.
You would like him to butter your toast, be the peanut butter to your jam.
Yeah. I could do the and shit forever, the mac to my cheese, whatever. But
yeah.
I think that it was that very much the universe brought me exactly what I needed, but the timing was off, and I don't want anything but that. I'm not saying that. I mean, what is meant for me is meant for me, period. So, but unless it can be an organic meeting out in the wild, something that just has romance to it, because I don't think dating apps have any romance to them. It's like, it might as well be Indeed. You might as well be applying for a job.
Yeah.
And I'll never do that again. I'll never be on another app if I don't somebody organically, or like, I mean, we've talked about how many freaking tropes we are at this. So like,
well, let's talk about this trope a little bit further, because I feel like Lord Anderson, they are telling us that he is in a league of his own because of just how kind of forward that he is. So this is when Lord Anderson tells Violet that
this is the most direct conversation that has ever happened in a Bridgerton London season.
I was like, whoa, you may as well just say, hey, I've got a ring. Does it fit your finger? Like...
Right.
Like, this is when Lord Anderson tells Violet that he is essentially looking for a love match now that his wife has passed. Quite a bold move, and definitely seems to fluster Violet for a moment, because she knows exactly what cards he's putting on the table.
Well, he keeps approaching her. He keeps
finding
her. Like, he's seeking her out. She knows what that is.
Men seeking women.
He is seeking her out at all of these social functions. And where have we heard that before? Colin's apology. I seek you out at every social function, because he is seeking her out. She knows exactly what that means. And when he says he's looking for a love match for his second act, she takes an audible intake of breath.
Yes.
Because she realizes what he's been playing at now this whole time. Like, oh, and like there's a definite change in her
demeanor,
her whole demeanor. Yeah.
Well, I think that it's quite a surprise for her, because although she did say that she was ready to, have her garnet and bloom, I don't think that she ever necessarily considered a second act. I think that maybe she just was looking for a little dalliance or something inconsequential. I don't think she was ever...
Didn't you find in Queen Charlotte that whole conversation between her and Danbury was kind of awkward?
Yes.
So as you're it the way you're saying it right now, that she never thought that she would find love again, that she was looking at just a dalliance. Don't you
Yeah.
find it ironic that she goes to the one person that she knows had a dalliance
Yes, actually.
and it didn't go anywhere?
Yep.
And it was quote unquote okay that she survived it because she's Lady Danbury, and look at her
Yeah.
reputation in
Because
the
as long
ton.
as, because no one in the town knew about they were so
Yeah.
discreet about it that the only reason that
Mhm.
Violet ever knew was because of the hat.
So I think that she went to a person who had that she knew had done it to see how to do it so that it wouldn't ruin her and her family because they'd already been through so much scandal. Like,
Yeah.
yeah.
But I think Violet was kind of aware of the fact that I am still a woman and my children are needing me less and less as time is going on. She's, I mean, to a certain degree, obviously, but I think she's like, okay, I've got like a good quite a few years now. Once I get Francesca married off, I've got quite a few years before Hyacinth. Eloise she's done and dusted, but they did say that next season that Violet is going to hop back on the Eloise train and go choo choo. We're gonna marry you off.
Because I think she's starting to get excited and she doesn't want to really move forward with Lord Aiden until the kids who knew Ed's situation. And so now she's getting really.
Yeah, she's like, all right, I want you guys out. I want to be in my lover's era. Like get out
Eloise,
of the
I
house.
can't have been married twice before you're even married once. Come on, girl,
Yeah,
get your crap
I'm
together.
lapping you at this point. And then she falls pregnant again. Like, wouldn't that be the coup of the season? So, at this point, seeing as you've talked so much about Lady Danbury anyway, the scene cuts over to a conversation between the Queen and Lady Danbury discussing the Queen's sparkler, Francesca, and how well the connection is going, and how surely Lady Whistledown couldn't possibly disagree with such a match. Ironic that Francesca is the Queen's sparkler, when I don't think Fran would know a spark if one lit in a petrol station. Which is
I think that
a gas station for you.
I think that you're explaining that to me like I don't know. I know what petrol. I think that what I find so funny and so open, like we discover that the Queen is not doing this for the same reasons as Lady Danbury or Violet.
It's literally just it's just a game for her to beat Lady Whistledown.
Just a game. She wants to make a match that Lady Whistledown cannot argue against. Like she wants to align with Whistledown. She wants Whistledown to like her.
I think she wants Lady Whistledown to be like, wow, you did so well. She wants praise for someone because, like, keep in mind, like
seeking approval from Lady Whistledown is what I'm saying.
Okay, so what it is the Queen has and you see this in any pretty much any kind of TV movie series. We see it like Prince Zuko in Avatar: The Legend of the Last Airbender. Like anytime that we have a young prince who's grown up around yes people, you will always find that they find themselves a no person, because when you earn a yes from a no person, that yes holds so much weight. The Queen has been surrounded by people who have only ever told her what she wants to hear or what they think she needs to hear, rather than the truth her whole entire life. And now she's got Lady Whistledown who challenges her and makes her question everything. And she's like, hey, if you want a yes from me, you've got to earn it. And she
and I'm going to say this because I think it plays into, she doesn't really have any true friends. She has Danbury, but there's still that separation of subject and Queen. And because the identity of Whistledown is not revealed at this point, I think that the Queen wants to align with Whistledown. I think she's looking at her, and I'm going to give, since we've already announced it, and this is going to air the week before we do the bonus ep with Ainsley, or the same week.
No, this will drop on the same day.
On the same day, so we're doing it as bonus. So when I watch Ainsley's content, and her content's not just Bridgerton, she seems to love a lot of
the things that we both love.
Media series that are also from books. That, I mean, she loves Outlander. I love Outlander. I have commented on her things several times. Yeah. And it's just one of those things that I'm like, could be friends.
Yeah. 100%.
Like I could be friends with this person. And I think that's how the Queen feels about Whistledown. Like I could be friends with her. Like I like her sense of humor. I like her snark. Like, where's her witty comment? Like, that's all she said. Like, she's so surprised at the change in her demeanor because she thinks she knows her,
Mm-hmm.
but she's treating her like an enemy because it is kind of a competition. But I think
Yes.
it's more like I could be friends with this person and I want her to like me and I want her to like my choice, kind of thing.
Well, she's the only person in the ton who doesn't bend to her will. Like the queen is a force of
Yes.
nature, and she does like people to bend to her will, but she also gets bored of it. And the queen is someone who is bored all the time. And Lady Whistledown is
And that's
the one challenge in her life.
But that's also the reason she chose Francesca, because
Yeah,
Francesca
was
chose
different.
her pursuits for herself, not to
Yeah.
impress the queen.
Yeah. So I think that's why Lady Whistledown is so important to the Queen, because she is the queen of all her subjects. And even though Lady Whistledown should fall within that because she has anonymity,
Anon-
anonymity,
Anonymity.
anonymity.
She's
So
got a
good.
pen name.
She's got a pan name. She's a pan and a whistle.
Got a pen name. Her name
But
is Pen.
her name is. Uh, I I think it's ridiculous that Julia Quinn didn't plan that.
If there was an
Happy
updated
accidents.
version, yeah, if there was an updated version, we'd have a girl that'd be like, my name was already Pen, so I had to give myself a different pen name. So
Yeah.
that's Lady Whistledown.
Yeah. I think very much that the queen respects the fact that finally she doesn't have someone who just bends to her will and actually just says things as she sees them, and she gets a whole different perspective that's not a perspective that's just bending to the queen's will. I think she finds it quite interesting getting to see someone else's, even if it is barbing at her. Like, I think she enjoys someone else's perspective because, like, obviously Brimsley's only ever gonna say what she wants to hear. I mean, to a degree. And you can see even with Lady Danbury, they are good friends, but you can see that even Lady Danbury, who is such a straightforward kind of speaker, that when it comes to both the queen and the dowager queen, that she is extremely guarded in the way that she says things, specifically because she knows that she is talking to the queen. They are royalty and they must be respected as such. So even when she has something to say that kind of maybe goes against what the queen may desire, as in when Lady Danbury very craftfully tells the queen, you're enjoying our game of chess, you wouldn't want it to end too quickly, would you? Like,
Right.
the Lady Danbury is managing her, but it's still in a very guarded and protected way, whereas Lady Whistledown's like, hey queen, you suck, I'm winning, you're losing, loser. Like, she openly
Right.
mocks her. So in this moment when the queen is so pleased with her match, though, that she even agrees with Lady Danbury that there might be less animosity between the queen and Lady Whistledown now. Now that it is so clear to me that Lady Danbury did know all along that it was Penelope, because she was trying to
Yes.
connect Penelope from the queen this whole time, very subtly playing the
Mm-hmm.
game and trying to soften the queen to Lady Whistledown, probably in fear that the queen may actually punish her severely if she were ever found out. The queen's
And I almost think that all of the queens, like surrounding people, have been noticing this for a while because the look on Brimsley's face and the
yes.
ladies in waiting look at each other like they know what Danbury's.
Yeah, like, yes, very much so. So like, this moment 100% solidifies for me the fact that Lady Danbury
She
did,
suspected, like she
yeah,
knew.
heavily suspected. I think if it was only like a mild suspicion, like, oh, I suspect 4 or 5 other people, she would not go out of her way to protect Lady Whistledown in the queen's eye. But the fact that she so heavily suspects that it is Penelope, she is going out of her way to make sure that she softens her view of Lady Whistledown and is like, hey, you enjoy the
Mm-hmm.
game. Just remember that if you ever are in the position of handing out a punishment one day. And I think if Lady Danbury hadn't played the cards the way that she had when it came to Penelope being
Well,
outed, I think that it may have gone, because the queen does sort of have a mind of her own and acts often on impulse, and I wouldn't actually put it past her to give out a cruel punishment if she were feeling rather petulant that day. And we do see her acting
right.
petulantly, and then, like, how Brimsley had to explain to her, you were being petulant, you decided you wanted to pick your own orange, and now we've got 2 people that are out of a job because you didn't want someone picking your oranges for you. Your actions have consequences. And we see it again in season, well, not again, but back in season 1, where Daphne did not want to pick a pig to be slaughtered, and as a consequence of that, and so these people are trying to say, hey, your actions have severe consequences, and trying to kind of not control them, but say, hey, maybe be thoughtful
Right.
of
And
your
you need
consequences.
to understand, you need to ask questions and understand the situation and what's going on, what a person's thought process is before you make a decision based on your own feelings. If you're the person entering a situation that hasn't been there before, it's like asking a coworker how something goes when you're a new person to a job before you ask if it can go a certain way.
We got
But
ourselves an extra. Yay, mommy and daddy.
but I just want to put in here too that if we look back, I honestly think that Brimsley and stuff was in on it, and I think there was a plan. Like I think this is the season of the plan. Like everybody had a plan
Everyone's
and
playing
an
the
agenda.
game.
Everyone's playing the game, and I think Danbury and Brimsley and stuff are playing the game of I think there was a knowledge because remember Danbury says that she was not involved in the nuptials of Colin and Penelope, but she's rather pleased
Pleased
by
by
it.
them. Yes.
She is and Violet is very much like really wanting Colin and Penelope to get together by this point. And then, Danbury is openly trying to protect Penn from the Queen when she is not engaged to anyone.
Yes.
And Brimsley even says at the beginning, like he tries to direct the only person he says anything specifically positive about is Francesca. You've always had luck with Bridgerton.
Yes.
I think they were trying to butter her up about the Bridgertons in the hopes that Penelope would get engaged to Colin at some point. And then she would be protected from the Queen because the Queen likes the Bridgertons. And then she'd be protected when she came out as Lady Whistledown. Because I think by this point, a lot of people did know who she was.
And keep in mind that Lady Danbury has often been in the podium alongside the Queen. And so she is kind of looking over the ton where she gets a really good vantage point of what's kind of been going on for the last 3 seasons.
And
so
she's
she would have
just as observant as Penelope is.
Incredibly observant. And so she would have seen Colin Bridgerton taking Penelope
Penelope out of the
Featherington
room
into a private room. He is dragging her by the hand. Like
and then comes back out. Then she comes back out and then they
with
dance.
intention. She's seen these things, and I don't think it came to her as any sort of surprise when they got engaged. So this is another moment between Lady Danbury and Alice, where Alice is now sharing her gratitude to Lady D for taking her under her wing and protecting her from the Ton in her husband's it's very much protecting from the Ton in her husband's absence. I'm sure it is incredibly overwhelming and a tad embarrassing to attend those events without him, but she couldn't bring herself to put her need for him there to be there over his need to feel like he was providing for the family. Like she knows that he is really, really struggling to.
And I also think if our theory is correct that Alice is Danbury's offspring, I think that we get an insight here into the fact that I don't think Danbury necessarily intends to tell her that fact for whatever reason, because she talks about the past, like he's got to let go of the past to embrace the benefits of the present for your son's future. And then she looks over at her brother and she's like, because there's some things that the past is a dangerous place to visit. And I think that, I think she's kind of come to a conclusion at this point that she's going to be helpful to the Mondricks, just like she's been helpful to the Bridgertons, because
I wonder whether they will kind of like look over here because it cuts straight from her saying that line and then it overlooks Lord Anderson, but I do wonder whether it was sort of this is what we're actually meaning, but look over here, and it is, the past is a dangerous place to revisit, as in, I had a love match, you were the consequence of that love match, you were a reminder of the love that we have between us.
Yes, it's her brother, and we make the assumption that's who she's talking about, but Violet is still there too.
Yeah.
And Violet and her have that conversation later, but I also think in this moment, she's
next to her biological daughter looking over at her adoptive daughter of such.
Yeah, like the daughter she could have had things been different.
Yes, the daughter that she has but doesn't have, and then the daughter that she could have had but doesn't. This is complicated.
But I think in that moment she had kind of decided to let sleeping dogs lie But
Yeah.
when everything turned out okay with Violet knowing about Lord Ledger, I think if she does, which I think she will in season 4 because it plays in, I think if she does announce that she is Alice's parent, that a lot of that led because of Violet being so forgiving and accepting and it working out. Because at this moment, she couldn't even imagine Violet actually knowing, let alone
Yeah.
being okay with it.
Yeah. Well, and I mean, because what point is that it's not for another 2 or 3 episodes where they kind of just but don't just
Yeah, that's episode 8.
oh well 4 episodes then. Yeah. Like I can't remember what episode it is. Honestly, I've watched
Yeah, because
episodes
it's their
1 to
last, like,
4.
she's like, I'll support you with Francesca being gone.
Yeah.
And they're having that drink. And then, she says,
I love that it's
she
that
says something about,
I love that it's the if he hurts you, I'll kill him kind of thing instead of like the if you hurt him. It's like a in the divorce, I choose you.
right, I choose you. Yeah.
Yeah.
And that's, I mean, it solidifies their friendship as a friendship and it brings them closer. And I love every moment of that scene and I can't wait to talk about it. But
for me, the scene
at
is
this
more
time, she couldn't even imagine Violet knowing, let alone actually being forgiving. So I think that's what she says to Alice.
Well, and I think at this time, like for me, the scene is more about Alice and about like the kind of relationship that she has with her husband and how much that she is actually giving up to meet the needs of her husband. Like she's completely putting aside her own needs. And like some of those mamas are vicious. And I mean, I know that
I think society as a whole is just
considering what Lady Danbury did for her own husband to keep him happy, I'm surprised that she's still a little bit admonishing towards Alice about the choices that she is making for her, well, not for her husband, but allowing him to make for himself. Because I think Lady Danbury has been used to a lifetime where she micromanaged her husband without him even knowing it. And so she thinks that Alice can do the same, whereas Alice is very much in a partnership. I think that's the difference.
She understands that Alice is doing the same. She's just doing it in a different way. Well, she's being the neck. Alice knows the art of the neck.
Yes. Like, very much so. But I mean, Lady Danbury had only ever known a life where she had to hide her true self from her husband and do things in a very sneaky roundabout way to get not what she wanted. What she wanted was literally just the man off of her body. Like, it wasn't a great
leave me the F alone, dude.
And like, she did some really, really, truly spectacular things in service of her husband's happiness. Yes, it was kind of for selfish needs, but at the same time, it wasn't. I'm sure there were other ways to get her husband away from her other than like literally getting the entire of the colored ton titled. Like, that's quite the feat. Like, imagine changing society's rule books all because you don't want to have sex with your husband.
Right.
Like, when you look at it that way, it's like, wow, you really did that. That's impressive.
That's like, I am so sexually repulsed by you that I changed course of history.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, literally. But, Alice and Will do have a really beautiful relationship. And I must admit that I was one of the people upon my very first rewatch. And I'm sure that you can go back into the Bridgerton page and you will see that literally the second that part 2 dropped, that you'll see me complaining about Francesca's lack of personality and how much screen time was given to Alice and Will. But I think that they aren't a relationship that upon first watch, like, we love the Bridgerton so much that we just want more Bridgerton content as a whole, realistically.
I wanted more Pollen content because they got the shaft. I'm still saying that.
And unfortunately,
we needed an extra 2 episodes. Bridgerton should be a 10-episode show. It needs to be 10 episodes.
You know what? I'm happy.
Netflix releases 10 episodes. I understand Bridgerton has a complexity to it because it's a period piece. I get all that. But you also cost so much money by taking as long as you did to do the editing and everything. Like, season 2, I just saw today that season 2 dropped 3 or 4 months after filming finished. So, like, you spent so much time.
But you know what it could have been? It was that everyone was in COVID times, and so all they had to do was to work
You
from
had
home
a lot
editing.
of time, yeah. You had a lot of time.
People now can go out in the sunshine again, Patty, and they want the sunshine.
Yeah, I have a life. I don't want to be editing 24/7. Yeah, I get that. But I think that especially Netflix, as successful as this show is, it should be allowed to be. They should provide the funds for it to be 10 episodes. I mean, come on. And they have plenty of dresses that they can alter. They've already altered one of Penelope's to look different, but not be different.
Yeah.
Like,
and I do definitely, I do apologize for the fact that, like, you know, in my early stages, I was even one of the ones that was like, boo the Mondricks, just because it took time away from the Bridgerton. But at the same time, the Featheringtons also took a huge chunk, and we adored them, but that's because they were the comic relief of the season. Whereas Will and Alice, they were just and I actually notice this in books all the time. People don't want to read books once their favorite couple is happy and in love and settled. They want to read the books when they're going through trials and tribulations, and it's will they, won't they, and oh, my heart can't take it. And you want those highs, and like as human nature, and I can see why people get into toxic relationships, because in a book I'm like,
it's drama.
Are they gonna get together? Like, oh, the suspense is killing me. And I'm someone who doesn't actually like the suspense. I skip to the end of the book to make sure I have a happy ending before I continue reading. And if it doesn't have a happy ending, like in Queen Charlotte, I will then take forever to read it because I know the pain that is coming for me. Like, but if it's a happy ending, I'm like, okay, I can do this now, you know, and I'll.
I don't know if you've read Nicholas Sparks, and like I've always been a person. Well, I can't say always now, because I used to be a person that I would not watch a adaptation of film, a television show, whatever, unless I'd read the first. And I made the mistake. I made the mistake of reading Knights in Rodanthe before seeing the movie, and it ends tragedy. And like The Notebook too, it ends in tragedy. It's like this great love story that I mean, and A Walk to Remember. Tragedy. Like literally, Nicholas Sparks, F you. Like, great love story ends in tragedy. You end up crying about it.
Remind me, does he also do the Lake House? Is that him?
I don't.
It seems like him. It's
no,
real sad.
It seems like him, but that's a little like sci-fi for him.
Okay.
And most of his stories, like he hears stories from people. Like The Notebook is a family member's love story.
Yeah.
That he wrote.
And then not P.S. I Love You. What's the one where the soldier goes off and then he comes home and there's
Dear
girls?
John.
Dear John. Yeah.
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 You know, like so many of these, but actually like my favorite book he ever wrote was the book he wrote about his own life. It was called 3 Weeks with My Brother. He went on an around the world trip with his brother because they were literally the last two family members left of their family.
That's depressing. I'm like, that's cute.
And his brother was sick.
Oh no.
Like, so yeah, had found out. Like, yeah.
Is this like a bucket list kind of bloody movie? Because that killed me too. You know what? I very rarely
sort of
do.
It was they wanted to connect as, you know, as being the last two. Their sister had passed away, their parents were gone, and then but he wrote it, I think, after his brother had passed.
Such a dopamine seeker.
It's so beautiful.
I'm such a dopamine seeker that I actually very rarely will read or watch anything now unless I know it has a happy ending. So otherwise, I'm like, you know what?
Oh yeah,
you're not taking away my happiness.
I like the happy. I like the romances.
I don't remember if I showed you.
End with vibes. Yeah, you showed me last week. Yeah,
cool. I love it.
You were making it while we were sitting here, putting the letters on.
I know, but I only just finished it the other day. But you can't see it. Also, okay. But sorry, that was my notebook that I made up, like my notes on. But yeah, so I think that Will and Alice, I think people get bored because it's a steady, loving, committed relationship, and it's nothing exciting. There's no real will they, won't they. There's no risk of them falling apart. They are just. But
I would love, like
steady.
with Queen Charlotte, and how Julia Quinn wrote Queen Charlotte when Shonda Rhimes to create Syrian Charlotte. I think that Shonda Rhimes created, or Chris Van Dusen or whoever created the Mondricks, right? They were created for the Bridgerton. And I think it would be awesome if Julia Quinn took that and whatever backstory they're going to give them.
Oh, I would love that.
And give us their love story. It's not in the ton.
I think Julia has said that she's done writing Bridgerton.
I know. Still, we could have a Mondricks. They're not Bridgerton.
No, but
they're only adjacent.
She said she's done writing anything in the Bridgerton universe. She said the universe
if she writes about how they got together outside of the ton, the Bridgertons would not be in there at all. It's not the Bridgerton. You can do it, Julia.
We believe in you.
From all the lovers, for all the book fans. We want to incorporate the Mondricks into the book somehow, like give them their own backstory.
Especially if they're going to be like a big part of the next,
Couple of seasons, yeah.
subsequent seasons. I think they deserve a little bit more love than what they get, because actually the actor and actress are brilliant and they do a lovely, lovely job. And as I have done so many rewatches now, I've come to actually really love their relationship and everything that it kind of symbolizes in the ton, where so many do mistreat their spouses, both on the female and male side. Because you know what? I'm going to put it out there. I think that Portia was just as toxic to her husband as he was to her, though I don't know, because we don't know the law of their relationship, whether that was a defense mechanism.
Yeah.
What came first, the chicken or the egg kind of situation. I think a lot of her personality was due to how he treated her, but I do think that a lot of it had to have been there to start with, otherwise she would have just crumbled.
Well, and I think it was, I mean, look at the Lord Cowper situation. Like, it's his wife's fault that they only had a daughter. It's his wife's fault that, like, even when he comes in to vacate Eloise Bridgerton, you hear him tell her, she's like, I told her it was calling hour. Obviously, you weren't clear enough, right? Like, she's at fault. So I think Featherington is a lot like that, because he is such a weak man that, he forces the responsibility of everything onto the show, right? So, but the Mondricks are very much a partnership, and it's beautiful to see.
I can't tell if they've got you upset. Oh, geez, sorry, we had a brief intermittence when my parents turned up. No coffee in hand. How heartbreaking. It's like they don't even love me.
And no chicken.
I know. That was terrifying.
Your dad scares you at the window, and no chicken.
He definitely, it was the chicken before the egg in that scenario. So this is when Alice confesses as much to Lady Danbury, after she admonishes Will for not being there supporting his wife. Alice explains his anguish at giving up their old life, even though she has encouraged him to do so. Like, even though she's like very, very gently saying, this is our new life, it's here to stay. And he's doing the same back to her as well. Both of them are so insecure that it is actually theirs. Well, it's not theirs. And that's part of the problem. But I think even if it wasn't Nikki's, I think they would still have a lot of these hang-ups about being given something so
yes, because they didn't earn it, because she flat out says, what did we do to earn this? And he's like, nothing.
Nothing.
And I think at the beginning, when he saw the power of it, it was cool, but I think the losing a part of himself that had become such an important part of himself, like, that's losing part of his identity, and he doesn't want to give up any part of himself to pander to a bunch of people he really doesn't know.
And that's like Lady Danbury explains to Alice that the Queen will not tolerate Will maintaining that life and running the bar. She says, a man of rank. And I wonder if they are keeping his title ambiguous for a reason. You can kind of see the Queen lean in to listen as she hears her name, or rather that her title, as Lady Danbury speaks, and has a sly smile as she hears her friend do her bidding for her. But Lady Danbury tries to explain to Alice that she must show Will that his new life is worth the sacrifice of his old life. And I said, it's a very Greek tragedy kind of moment indeed, sacrificing lives for wealth and prosperity. Because obviously everyone in the scene is dressed in Greek. Alice is dressed very Grecian goddess, and that kind of thing. So I thought this is a Greek tragedy for sure.
And honestly, that's a great line about Danbury's own life too, like, sacrificing your old life for the new. And I don't think we're meaning like her life with Lord Danbury versus where she is now standing next to the Queen. Like, I mean, but all of that led to that, right?
I think
there is something that took them from companions to as close as they are, because they are very close. So there is some back and forth, some reciprocity, some vulnerability that we have not seen. And I'm glad they're exploring more of that in season, because we need to see how they got from that tenuous alliance, because it's more of what they had in the beginning was an alliance. What we saw in Queen Charlotte was an alliance of two women in very different positions. And now we're seeing a true years-long friendship. So we've got to see what happened in that time to get them there.
And keep in mind that Lady Danbury had a chance at a second or third act, however you want to put it, when the Queen's brother Adolphus, I think. When he did propose to her. Yes. There was an official proposal. Yeah, like, and she turned it down. He was willing to take on the children and everything, and she turned it down because she was like, I've had my love. And you know what? I actually think she could have had a nice enough life with him, but she was never willing to risk. And I think that's the difference is Lady Danbury is the second that she got her power, she was never willing to risk it for love. Like for her, that wasn't something she was willing to sacrifice. Like, yes, she could have scored massive and she could have had a really fulfilling life with him, but instead, and I wonder whether that would have meant she would have had to have left Alice. She couldn't have taken Alice
But
with
remember,
her.
for her, it was a thought process too. Like it was a choice. Like she had considered it briefly, right?
Yeah.
What if she had realized she was pregnant and she knew it was Lord Ledger's and that baby
Ah.
was going to be mixed race? So if she had
She needed to
married
make,
him,
she really needed to make the great experiment work for her child.
well, not only that, if she would have gotten with someone who they would never believe like a baby born of that union was
Mm,
that light skin,
that's a really good
so
point.
it would have been
That
obvious.
that would have lined up quite. Yeah, that's actually a really good point. Hadn't even thought of that one actually, but because I was thinking of
Why
the fact
did you hear my gasp of breath? I
the
just
way
thought
I
of it.
gasped. Yes.
Oh my goodness. That's a thought. That's a thought press. I
I
see
can
arms behind
I can hear him. I can
nose and mustache and smile. Like, that's all I saw.
my parents are being pests. Are the best kind. Yeah, no, I definitely think that she had briefly considered that, she could have gone, but I also think that she realized at that point that she kind of had a responsibility to help maintain the great experiment, and especially with Augusta still alive, it kind of was at risk. Like she knew once Augusta was gone, and some of those lords, I don't remember, like the name will come to me. That main one,
Cares.
Brutus.
Yeah.
No,
I don't.
yeah, whatever his name is, but we'll call him Bruce. Brucey Bruce was kind of leaning over everyone's throat, like over everyone, like kind of in a threatening manner, as to like he did not seem like the kind that wanted to give up titles or land or anything. Lesser being kind of view. He
Right.
seemed very master race kind of a vibes. And so I think she knew that if she left, that would potentially take away a lot of the influence that she had established with Augusta. And I think Augusta, a little bit like Queen Charlotte herself, was bored and she liked playing that game with Lady Danbury. And if she no longer had that game to play, she could be just as petulant as Queen Charlotte and just take away on a whim and say, oh no, the title does not pass down to your children. It was for you only, And so
Right.
she knew that she had to stay and do her part for the next generation.
Yeah, she knew she had the queen's ear, so there was that too.
Well, I don't think it even was, because she never actually went to the Queen to solve any of her problems for her. Like, she very much wanted to do it on her own graces. Like, she did not want to lean on the power of others to get what she wanted. She wanted to achieve it through her own means of not manipulation, but playing the game intelligently. And I think if she had gone to the Queen, yes, she would have gotten what she wanted, but Augusta would have made her life miserable for it in any way that she could. Like, how dare you go around me? I'm the queen, the Dowager Queen. I held the power. Like, she would absolutely see it as insult. Whereas, because she liked the game, just like Lady Danbury and Whistledown, like they are just the new variation of it, generation of it. They're just playing the game. And then that's when Lady Danbury then says that past lives are dangerous places to revisit. She nearly spits that last line as actually, no, I think it was very much aimed at her brother, because she just about spits the line as she looks over at her brother, clearly courting her best friend. And I think that seeing her brother brings up a lot of the feelings of childhood and the feelings of helplessness and fear, everything that she has spent her lifetime kind of trying to crush down and doesn't want to revisit. Like, Lady Danbury definitely is not the kind to do therapy. She is the kind to find her therapy at the end of a bottle, or in a carriage ride, Colin style. What you looking up?
I was trying to find Queen Charlotte on Cap That because I just recently seen a reel that went through Violet asking a maid, they're leaving the house, asking a maid about some of the stuff her mother had said, and that maid was like, do not outside of the house. And then that conversation in the drawing room where she basically like says that they are just like everyone else when her mom is saying they aren't.
Yeah.
And how like, and I think that was to show that Violet was getting more of her influence and education from the staff. And I was going to try and find that on Cap That, because now I want to see if that, you know how Bridgerton is with casting. So I wanted to see if that young maid was possibly a young Mrs. Wilson. because Mrs.
Interesting.
Wilson is older in Bridgerton times, but it's not on Cap That.
Interesting.
Queen Charlotte isn't on Cap That at all. So I have to figure that how I'm gonna find that out. So sorry, I completely missed what you said. I heard carriage, of
I
course.
said that instead of, I was saying that basically Lady Danbury would never ever seek out counseling to deal with her past traumas, that she would be more likely to find counseling at the end of a whiskey bottle or in a risque carriage ride, like Colin Bridgerton style. Like she finds her own version of dealing with traumas, and that is avoidance.
Yeah. Yes, she does not like
Why
to revisit the
why
past. We
confront when
know.
you can avoid?
Yeah.
Yeah.
She just creates, and she's created a persona.
Yeah. And keep in mind that, like, I honestly think that the only person that she has allowed to see anything but that persona I think that since Lord Ledger, the only person that has seen the facade drop is actually Violet, because even with
Violet, yeah.
Simon, she's very not heavy-handed, but she's very
Parental, and there is a
sternness to her with him.
well, and there's just a divide between child and parent that you
You
don't
don't show
really,
affection back then.
and
It
you
was
don't,
frowned upon to show affection.
well, not even affection, but just vulnerability. Like parents do not become vulnerable to their kids until they're older and they need help. And they don't even like to do it then, just end up having to. Like I learned a lot about my mother in the last, we'll say, 5 years of her life.
Mhm.
Things we never knew, that because she felt like to be the person she needed to be for us, to be able to raise us and to be able to lead us in the way we need to go and to feel strong in herself, she had to hide these parts of her that we didn't find out until the last few years of her life. So I think that Danbury was always, if she was going to play parent to Simon, he was never going to get a full picture of her.
Yeah.
And I think that Queen doesn't get a full picture of her because she decides before the Queen is allowed to decide what is important enough for the Queen to deal with.
Yeah. Well, and to tack
So,
on to what you were saying about how we don't really get to know our parents, it was quite interesting. So my grandma, my she died 2000, so that was 11 years ago, and 10 years before my granddad passed. And her best friend is still alive though, and would quite often meet up with myself and my papu at a local mall, the one I go to all the time for Ezra to go play at. And
right.
she would love to come, and she said, I just love watching you on the playground with Ezra, even from when he 1 year old. And she said we were taught when we were raising our children that to show them affection was to do them a disservice, because it is showing them weakness, and if you show them weakness, they won't listen to say, and they will grow up to be spoiled little children. And she's like, you show your son affection so effortlessly. And she's like, it's really, really beautiful, because we weren't raised that way. We were told by our parents we have to treat our children this way. And I think I even said this in
Well, and
just
yeah, I mean,
I think
my story.
yeah, and I
Like
think I even said
I
this
was
to you.
I was raised by the Dr. Spock method, like
Well, and
zero
I said to you in
affection.
I said to you in group chat last night with you and Kay that, even my mum, who I would say actually raised us rather empathetically, but, when I first had my son, she'd say, don't pick him up. It's creating a rod. Like if he cries, don't pick him up. It's creating a rod for your own back. And I said, I will never apologize for showing empathy and kindness and caring to my child. I do not believe in like if I'm happy to pick him up, what's the problem? If I'm happy to be
Mhm.
the rod, if I don't mind having the rod on my back, what's the problem? And I was like, I'm going to do things the way that my instincts tell me to, and I'm not going to read books. I'm going to do what my instincts. And I think I have a really, really beautiful little boy who is respectful. He is kind. He has
And
a
he is
big
empathetic.
personality. He is so empathetic. And yesterday, I think parents all the time are so surprised. He plays with 1-year-olds on the playground, and he's so gentle and very mindful of the fact that they are smaller. The only thing that makes me giggle is when he goes to go join them, or when he's saying goodbye, and he'll say, "All right, bye bye now." And they don't respond to him, and he goes, "Oh, not working." And I said, "Darling, they don't know how to talk yet." But he's like, "But they're my friend. Why are they not saying goodbye to me?"
Yeah.
Which is really cute. But yeah, I like very much.
That's so.
Like I
Yeah, I
think
mean,
Violet
we had
is
that conversation too. Like I was raised the Dr. Spock method. Like you put your kid to bed, and no matter how much they scream, you do not go in there because they have to learn how to self-soothe. If a parent connects with their child at all, they're creating an issue later. They're creating kids who don't take risks. They're creating kids who never move out and about in the world, and they're creating scared children and all this mess. And ultimately what they did was create a whole generation of kids
And because
that
you know what the goal is for every single
struggle
person
to
in
attach to anyone.
it's because the goal has been to divide and conquer. Every single person in life is now supposed to be an individual and do everything on their own and be completely independent rather than being
Yep.
a community, which is what we are designed to be. Like look at the monkeys, for example, look at the animal kingdom. We come from where should be community based. And I feel like the whole Spock method was we were teaching children to only ever rely on themselves when I think
Rely on yourself.
it's really healthy to get other people's perspectives and other people's input and be like I say, I'm an amalgamation. My personality, my soul, my everything is an amalgamation of every person who I ever come into contact with and allow to touch my soul, if that makes sense.
Well, yeah, like I mean, I struggle with all of the modes of connection. Like when I finally crossed the divide of being able to hug a person or have physical affection with a person, I'm so starved for it. I kind of need a lot. But if I'm a stranger with someone or I don't feel safe with someone, I don't want to be touched at all.
Oh, my family are huggers, by the way. Big
I
huggers.
struggle I struggle with gift giving. Like I can give a gift. I'm very like I love giving gifts for people. I love little tokens of happy. I say it's me sending love out in the world, but I struggle with receiving a gift like a lot.
I know. But
so
you will like your gift. Take it and you
I
will
know. Everybody has to tell you will take this and you will like it.
I know you will like it. Actually created. Patty, we forgot to mention, well, not forgot, but in our last podcast, which we literally recorded an hour before this, Patty has had a very, very difficult week this week and lost our little podcast host, Butler. I was going to say our smallest, but Daisy's our smallest.
No, Seymour's the
Seymour.
No, your Lily would be the smallest.
Oh,
your
true.
dog is the smallest.
True. Well,
so
I
it
mean,
would go in
she's
order of
usually
size.
quiet.
Would be Butler, Daisy, Seymour, and then Lily would be the smallest. But
she's thankfully been quiet. Like, she's not she's not a host at the moment.
Lily's only loud when she needs to eat or she gets caught between the sofa and the thing.
Because we're not recording at 4:30 anymore, so it's not 30 minutes before her time.
Right.
But yes. So we lost our little not
if
so
you've
little
noticed
podcast.
it's been when you hear these two pods, I think everybody's gonna notice quiet background.
Yeah. He's noisy in our souls. It's okay. In our hearts, he is there. But moment of silence for our little I mean, I can't even put moment of silence because Trinicate silence will immediately remove
Take it out. Yeah. Hold on. A moment of loud for Butler.
I actually much prefer that. Yes. So so I think what we like that was a very long tangent to basically say that Lady Danbury only has ever been taught how to be tough.
We need to know. We need to know what it is.
Yeah. I think she only knows how to be tough. And I think even with Simon, I don't think she ever showed true affection. I think she cared for him and she showed him a lot more kindness than he'd ever been shown in his life. But I don't think that she ever showed him affection. And I think that watching Violet in the way that she raises her children, Lady Danbury sees Lord Ledger in that. And I think she loves it so much more because she sees that kindness that is so rare in the Ton. And even just kindness for your own children is rare.
Violet's upbringing with her mother, who her mother was and who her father was, after Queen Charlotte, that all of the good, all of the love, all of the Bridgertonness that Violet has instilled in kids comes from Lord Ledger.
Yes, and I think that's also another reason. I think that Violet is a symbol of hope for Lady Danbury, that even if you are raised in a household with a awful mother, that you can still turn out loving and good whole, that you can overcome that. I think that Violet is a beacon of hope for Lady Danbury in a lot of regards.
Well, yeah, because she knows that she was not that great of a mother for her kids.
Yeah.
Because of who fathered them. Like she couldn't get over that and the fact that she was violated to create them. So I think she does find hope in Violet, knowing that maybe if they have had him, although her dad died and was a piece of work. So I mean, and we don't know. She could have been kind of a different mother after that. We don't know, which is again why we need her backstory.
Yeah, very much so.
Sean.
All right. Moving on to someone else's backstory. and second act, we are moving over to Benedict, who is currently conversing with an elder couple who is actually Lady and Lord Fuller. They have certainly made a point to show who are the oddities in the Bridgerton world, and it's very interesting to me that Benedict always gravitates towards them at events as if that is where he feels most comfortable with the outliers of society. Mr. Granville, or sorry, Lord Granville, with the fact that he befriends the Mondrocks even before they're anything in town, with Lord and Lady Granville. Like, he is always the one that is seen with people that aren't very not popular, but they're definitely outskirts
Except
of
that
society.
he's got the spirit of Lord Ledger. Him and
Yeah.
Colin both. They both embrace the people that the ton are
Shun.
kind of shun. Yeah.
Yeah, yes. So Benedict is joking that he missed his calling as a dancer when the elder couple catch him glancing over at Lady Tilly. As he could not approach her in public in such a formal setting without a formal introduction, the couple pick up on their cue, because that is their job in society once they are married off, and call her over to give the two a formal introduction after asking if they had met yet. Benedict sort of acts a little like a green boy, whilst Lady Tilly, she's going to kill his reputation. Tilly keeps it very cool and dismissive of their connection. Like, they ask, have you two met before? And he's like,
yes, we have. And she's like, briefly.
yeah. She's like,
Briefly, meaning
can you be chill?
engaged in,
Can you be
yeah,
chill?
they engaged in a conversation without an introduction upon like in happenstance. That is allowed,
Yes.
but you have to like you still need an actual introduction to continue just.
But I'm like, are you
So she saves Benedict.
But I'm like, are
she
you
saves
letting
Benedict
us
here.
I'm like, are you letting us know the time length and duration of his skills here?
No.
Briefly. And I'm like, how brief?
No, she's
How brief?
saving his ass
How
there.
brief?
She is saving him there.
But I was like, that's a very interesting choice of words there, Miss Tilly. Ah.
But and the way she acts after that, like it was not brief because she's like bedroom eyes. Let's go, buddy.
I know.
But I find it funny too that Lord Fuller and Lady Fuller, considering like they haven't even let people into their house in 20, 30 years as they collected all them books and whatever.
Yeah.
But how did they know Lady Tilly?
Yeah. Interesting, actually, because they're both into the arts. I think
That could be patrons of the arts. Yeah.
With the fact of how interested they are in collecting books, I think they're probably very interested in that. I mean, not
and
saying
the
that
sculptures
the two
and stuff they have too. Yeah.
They definitely, yeah, I would say that they are patrons of the art, and that's how they know each other. And because
he's
Lady
gravitated
Tilly's so
towards them probably because he wants to talk about the ballet, so he found a couple that would talk about the ballet.
Exactly,
because that's what Benedict does. He understands who's who and what's what, and he finds the people that will give him the most entertainment and pleasure when he is in.
It's not
society.
that he likes the ton or hates the ton. He likes the parts of the ton that, like, he knows how to navigate it to make it. He knows how to navigate the ton to make it work for him. To
make it fun. He only wants fun.
Yeah.
He doesn't want anything tricky or sticky or anything.
Well, I mean, I was going to say, I'm sure that there's some sticky situation involved here. I love that these two are completely flirting with each other whilst the elder couple are completely unaware of how loaded each double meaning sentence was. This feels like a verbal foreplay for them, using sly smirks and sensual eyes to convey their desire for one another in front of this oblivious couple.
Well, and here's what I find funny too. Like,
nothing worse than a state of undress.
Them being in a state of undress, and Lord Fuller's like, could have definitely put on a shirt. You're focusing on him putting on a shirt when that girl had like naked straps to her dress.
Naked.
The dress only comes down to her knees, and he is wearing tights that are like a second skin. I mean, you can see everything. All the biz.
Yeah. I mean, to be honest,
focused on the guy wearing a shirt.
It was actually incredibly, I'm actually surprised that they allowed them in such few clothing. And I don't think back in the day
it's because they're performers. It's because they're performers. Like Sienna could get away with dressing they were basically a little more gaudy.
I don't think that they would have been allowed to. Like, I mean,
think because they were hired by the queen. They were hired by the queen.
The queen gets to do whatever she wants, but it's basically
the queen gets to do whatever she wants.
By their standards, like, it would be the equivalent of today's standards of burlesque. Like, it was.
And if we're playing into that, okay, the queen decided, the queen hired them, the queen staged this ballet, right? Yeah. So
The queen's a
She
bit horny and she's
wants
like, let me see some half-naked men.
no, think about our answer to Miss Mojo. Like, what is one of the romantic scenes they had? The bathtub scene. What was she wearing? A nightgown. What did that
Yeah.
dress kind of look like? A nightgown.
Yeah.
And what is he wearing? Practically nothing. What was the king wearing? Practically nothing. So I think that
Just
this is the queen like
recreating.
this. I'm gonna recreate what we looked like when in our hottest moment, and I'm gonna turn everyone else on because it's gonna turn me on.
Yeah. But yeah, the Bridgerton siblings have definitely picked up their mother's penchant for double meaning, like definitely speaking without speaking.
Right.
Okay, let's move over then to our last lovers of the evening. Na na na. Well, not for the evening, but for our evening. Well, it's not even evening for me. It is
9.
as we are now hours apart. Hopefully my parents are going to vamos soon because my son okay, yes, our last lovers of the evening is Cressida and Eloise. Cresseloise. We're still musing out whether or not this is a potential future pairing, or whether either of the two have any sort of inclination towards one another.
Yeah, there's a large portion of the fandom that stand them and shipped them. So we are taking how it was staged, the production was staged into consideration
Yes.
as to whether this was considered a pairing or not.
It's not necessarily our belief system, but we will never leave any stone unturned for our dear listeners. And so we are going to muse out all aspects of this series.
Yep. So again, we have them seeking each other out at a social function.
Cressida then finds Eloise sitting off, and because I think that this moment also plays into Eloise's reaction to Penelope in the next episode dramatically. I need my throat. I didn't bring any water to join me for today's episode, and I am down Struggle Town because I still have the slight remnants of my chest infection from like 2+ months ago. So
I've drank so much fluid and eaten so many snacks.
I have not. So Cressida then finds Eloise sitting off, well out of the mix on her own. Cressida states how she has been searching for her all evening. Eloise is definitely sitting in her
I find that
party.
funny because Eloise is sitting in the same spot she's been in all evening. Cressida, yes. Where have you been looking?
Well, and the backdrop in the scene sort of reminds me of either like the curtains of a play or even a circus. Like they're very like the red draping, with Eloise sitting like in the middle of it. Like,
yeah, did Eloise pull the curtains closed? Like if you think about Little Women, when Jo goes to that one social function and her dress is burned, so she hides off in that side room and Lori finds her. Yeah. And then they like have their own fun time and they're dancing.
Max for that comment though. I know it was for purpose, but like, dude, that was rude.
Well, and we had to learn that Lori was a little different than your typical society male. That's kind of how you learn. But I think that was similar. Like Eloise was off kind of Jo March style. Like her dress wasn't burned, but her
emotions were. So Eloise was clearly sulking though, that she is once again left friendless because of her reputation, which probably just reignited her anger towards Penelope, which makes sense given how episode 5 plays out. Because obviously Eloise probably thought, hey, my reputation's somewhat repairing. Like I've got a friend now. Other debutantes are seeking me out to be friends. So obviously the mamas are easing up on me as well, because the mamas would not allow those debutantes to seek out Eloise if she were not from a reputable family. They would definitely play interception. So I think Eloise is once again back in the mindset of Penelope has done this to me. Penelope ruined our friendship and now she's ruining my future friendships as well because what she wrote about me.
I don't know if my perspective of it is, the way I see it is that she didn't expect Cressida to come around. She assumed, as most debutantes would, that they would follow their parents' requests and missives. So she expected to be fully alone. And I think she was missing Penelope.
Yeah.
In that moment. And so when Cressida came up to find her, she made that quip because she wanted it to be clear that your dad hurt my feelings. Like he's a douche. And Cressida agrees with her. So then they're back on even ground. Like, hey, it's going to be, maybe this will be okay. But then she learns in the
But
end, like, Cressida really does kind of suck because she didn't listen to me at all. She acted like she was going to, but then she didn't.
keep in mind the deleted scene, though, that plays out just after this. And it is of Eloise basically. So the deleted scene is Eloise having a go at Colin, like, what the hell was that? You just interrupted a dance on the dance floor and like had a massive go at the fact of like, are you courting Penelope Featherington, essentially? And she was really angry about it. And they changed that scene to be taking place at the house instead. But look at the reaction that Eloise has. There's not 1 ounce of happiness in it. It is pure venom. And I think that a lot of that venom takes place because of how this interaction with Cressida goes.
Yeah, and I think it's less venom and more hurt. I think she's heartbroken. I think she expected that her and Penelope would get back together.
What is venom? What is
but on her
but what is venom there for? Venom is not there to be snarky. Venom is only put in place into an animal as a defense mechanism.
Yeah.
And that's why I think
venom. I think she knew they would get back together, but I think she figured it would be on her terms and she would magnanimously forgive her at some point because remember the conversation on the stairs, he says, "Have you forgiven her?" And she says, "I want to. Can you?" Like she wants to forgive her, but she hasn't brought herself to do it yet, but she knows
because she hasn't learned how to hold herself accountable yet.
The question is never for neither one of these two. The question is never, will Penelope forgive us?
Yes,
because the question is, like, they're not seeing how they've hurt her in this process at all, and that she is magnanimously just accepting them back with open arms. But I think that she just figured, I'll be mad at her for a while, and then I'll get over it, and then we'll be friends again, and everything will be great. And I think in that moment, like, she's really considering, like, but she's also understanding like they're on different planes of existence right now because Penelope's trying to get a husband. Like she's having that moment like Colin in the second half of did I really ever know her? Right. Yes. And then that plays into finding out her and Colin are engaged. And she's really like, I really didn't know you. I knew nothing about you. Yes. You weren't even truly my friend.
But it was right in front of her the whole time. She just literally did not open her eyes. You only
wanted my brother. And that's how she leapt to that conclusion because, she didn't open her eyes, but Penelope also was not forthcoming.
Also, look at Cressida in this moment. And this is why I'm saying that this interaction very much plays into Eloise's reaction is Eloise thinks that she is creating this deep bond with, well, maybe not so much deep, but she thinks that she's
creating a friendship. Yes.
She's creating a friendship with Cressida. And she's sitting there thinking, okay, Cressida's just asked me what are actually my thoughts on this. And I'm having this deep and meaningful and finally a real conversation in the ton. And what does Cressida do? She ups and leaves the second that the male suitor that she was interested in becomes available yet again. So yet again, another woman is abandoning me in the pursuit of creepy fingers. What do you want?
A husband. So we know there's another deleted scene that may still get used where she goes to see Theo, right?
Yes.
We're musing that this scene probably happens after the conversation on the stairs with Colin, and he says, believe yourself lucky that you've never been in love. But what if the scene, it could have still occurred after that, but what if it occurred after this? Because if we're looking at them like a pairing, like a potential, like, and maybe she thought there might be, because she did go during calling hour.
Yeah.
She doesn't see anything weird in that. And maybe she thought they're finally really connecting. But the second that Cressida has a potential of scooping up a potential husband, she's outie. So in a way, when they're really connecting and there possibly is a connection, she gets left for reputation, for security, for whatever. Sound familiar? I think she finally was in the shoes of Theo.
Yeah.
She was living the experience of Theo when she did not kiss him, and she was like, ooh, wait a minute now. And she could see his perspective.
And
remember, she can only see people how they think the way she thinks. And
Until
now that she's been there, now that she's experienced it, she wants to go back because she realizes how much she hurt him.
And you know what? There's a lot of times where, as humans, we have certain thoughts or feelings or judgments that we make until we experience ourselves, and then we realize, hey, wait a minute. Mostly parenting, honestly, like so many things that you think or judge other parents for, and then you become a parent, and you're like, okay, we're just all in survival mode over here, trying to just stay atop of the choo-choo train.
And it's the people who, oh, I would never get into an abusive relationship. I would never let somebody talk to me that way. I was that person. I try my hardest not to say never or always now.
Well, that's why I don't make generalizations.
It is so, well, and I think it's just become part of our vernacular. Like when I say I will never, I don't necessarily mean I will never.
I hope I would never.
The way, yeah, it's like I believe I would never, but you know what I mean? Like, it is just a vernacular we have from the way our media is and the way movies are and scripting is. Like, I would never, I always do this. Like, you know, do you always do that, or do you sometimes forget?
I mean, and I literally said to you yesterday, I use the term literally, even though you knew it was definitely a hyperbole and it was figuratively, not literally.
I mean, we say, literally is another thing that gets used a lot. Like, are you being literal right now?
But it's literally just as a hyperbole of just how extreme this is. And you know, when I use the term literally, it is almost literally.
It's like making it like that dramatizes the extremity of it. Yeah.
Okay, but Eloise snarks at Cressida that she is that Bridgerton girl. Cressida is a bit sad that she had heard those words and that she was hurt by them, which was kind of like a sweet moment between them. As Cressida is expressing her sorry on behalf of her father, Eloise and Cressida both have their heads turned to be fully engaged with each other. Like, if you look, like, you know how they say about how body language analysts and a lot of body language analysts have analyzed Luke Newton and Nicola Coughlan to the extreme. But if you look at when someone is like truly fully engaged, and it can be in a platonic way, but sometimes in this season, now that I look at it closer, it does seem like more between them. They are completely engaged with each other, bodies fully turned on the couch, because like obviously when you're on a couch, like you're sitting next to someone and it's hard to be fully engaged. They are both turned, like, I can't remember the exact thing, but if they leg up or anything, to I'll have to let me assess.
Yeah, it's they're both turned toward each other, because I was just thinking, you know, because I see that a lot, you know, especially in the content of this person really likes you, or you know, they're really interested in what you're saying or whatever, if you're turned toward each other. And the only one I don't agree with is the eye contact, because I think neurodivergent people do not make a lot of eye contact. But like when we were in, you know, various venues of the cruise and just in a situation where we're just sitting down and, you know, whatever, almost always even though the tables and chairs, if you think of them dining room style, it's like a table with 4 chairs around it facing the table, but we always turned the chairs where we were kind of facing each other.
Well,
like, and not across from each other. We were sitting like 2 chairs next to each other, and we pulled them out from the table and turned them to face each other because we're having conversation. And it's, you know, we're not sitting at a table eating food.
I just had a look at it, and you can't actually see, because obviously they're in some sort of like, not podium, but you know, with the curtains, but they are definitely like very much like turned faces directly angling towards each other, and they are sort of like looking away and looking as Cressida is kind of expressing her sorry on behalf of her father. Like, they are fully like engaged with each other. If others had seen them in the light of modern times, they would definitely question the depth of the connection between them based on this.
Or if they were male and female at that time. If they were male and female at that time, they would assume
there was some kind of connection being built there. And you know, when Eloise says, you know, if you find that you can no longer, you know, maintain our friendship for some time, I understand. And Cressida actually looks like hurt for her friend, that she even thinks for a second that she would stop being friends with her. And this is one of those scenes where I think that Eloise has been an asshole, because where Cressida does ditch her out for her husband, but that is the aim of the game. At the end of the day, she can have her friend, but she also needs a husband. So she's like, well, you know, top priority is husband.
Eloise wants another friend who wants to be a spinster.
She wants to be the priority in someone's world, and not realizing that priorities are prioritized to husbands at that time.
Well, I don't know. well, and she says like she doesn't understand someone unless they think like her.
Yes.
So I think she sees a friend, kind of like how we were talking about, I think it was her, there's learning how to be a friend and there's learning how to have a friend.
Yes.
She's only learned how to have a friend because Penelope always did what she wanted, always like agreed with her and stuff like that, because Penelope was so excited to have a friend. She was that people pleaser, she learned people pleasing in her trauma upbringing. So Eloise has only ever learned how to have a friend, and she believes to have a friend, they need to agree with her. They need to, so she doesn't see anyone as potentially being able to be a friend unless they agree with her, believe what she does, wants to be just like her. Yeah. And this is the moment I think that she understands. She sees Cressida be genuine, but Cressida still is seeking a husband. Yes. And in that moment, she's like, are you serious? Like, I thought we were getting somewhere.
You're just another
girl. Gives me the vibe of, if they are a connection, and they might be, because we know how the ton operates after you get married and you produce an heir. But if they are a pairing, a connection, I would see in this moment, like Eloise probably had more feelings than Cressida really did, because she seems the most shocked and surprised when Cressida just ditches.
Yes, but I also have thoughts when we get up to that point. So Eloise sort of breaks the connection though, as she insort. I'm going to give you the worst insult of your life. She insults Lord Cowper, which makes Cressida snap her head to the attention of the room immediately to see who might have heard those words. I would hazard a guess that Lord Cowper beats both Cressida and Araminta based on that response, and it is only once that she has assessed that there is no ears close enough that she agrees with Eloise's assessment that her dad is a fool. But like the way that he is so like they are under his thumb, and the immediate kind of like fear on her face as her head like snaps, like who, like
it doesn't have to be physical abuse to cause that reaction, because I promise you there is enough punishment in the world that is not physical,
but
that
knowing
you still look to make sure they didn't hear it be said.
Oh, but he definitely seems like the kind that
he locks her in her room forever. Like
I think he would get the whip. Honestly, like he is that, and he would never do it in a way that would leave marks anywhere that would be seen. But I think that he is such a under the thumb kind of a man.
Yeah, you can traumatize someone and not leave any marks.
Yeah,
it happens. As somebody who's survived that, like I can see her fear. That's a definite fear, it doesn't have to be physical. Like Cressida has been locked in her room before. I don't think what we see is the first time.
I would say locked in her room. I would say starved.
Starved, yes. Yeah. Eliminated food, eliminated societal functions, and living in that mausoleum without any kind of thing to look forward to. No human contact. And I think the silent treatment, because he seems to really master the silent treatment.
And I think the staff
he's not berating.
I think the staff know it too, and that is why they kind of allow her out, even though she's not supposed to be leaving the house. I think they kind of cover for them, knowing if they can cover it up.
That was not her lady's maid who brought in the food. That's a kitchen maid. And look how quickly they helped her.
Yeah, because they know what she lives with.
They know what he's like, yes.
Yeah. So Eloise stated that she understands if she needs to distance herself for a while, but Cressida rather defiantly says that her father will have to endure it. And this is when the two have like a really like looking at each other very, and like Cressida kind of like
a little giggly,
she almost flutters her eyelashes, and like the mood is very sensual romance. And I'm like, this is a vibe. I'm catching the vibe of the Cresseloise people. I'm on the fence about it, but I would not put it past Jess Brunel to be like, you get a gay, well, everyone gets a gay.
And I saw it in that moment of like, both of them feel fully seen for the first time. Because I think that Eloise has always been this way with Penelope, but never with anyone else.
Yeah.
And Cressida has always been a certain way with everyone else and never been her true self. And I think in that moment is when they first really revealed their true selves, and they realized they genuinely liked each other. Right. Yes. And so they have that moment, that kind of moment of awkwardness of, was this safe? Was this a safe thing to do? And so I took it more as that rather than flirting, because these both are out in society. They both are very guarded women.
I mean,
because like, Eloise is very radical. So she has radical views. So she has to be masked highly masked in public. And I think Cressida had armor put on her as a young girl by her mother, that all women are
like
competition.
She's very like
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm not saying it's not flirty. I'm just saying if that was not the intent, I can see it as
Yeah.
them both being truly seen for the first time
And then
by another person that was not family. Because I think Eloise really did just consider Penelope family.
Yeah.
Well, that's why she could never see that her and Colin being together.
This next part is kind of also feeds into Cressida being, in an abusive household, because Cressida tells Eloise just how different she is and questions where her courage to be so brave comes from. Clearly a quality that her dad has tried to stamp out of her. Yes. Eloise then states that it is not courage. Like, girl, we know it's the spicy. You don't have to tell us.
It's not courage. It's the tism.
But actually,
let me show you this thing called TikTok. Here's my phone.
She would never leave her bedroom ever again. But actually, it's that she simply cannot understand that others do not see things the way that she does, to which Cressida responds, "How do you see things?" Eloise looks so pleased, elated even, to be able to have a real conversation about something of depth. And the scene kind of made me chuckle because it reminded me of every neurospicy person ever and their excitement when someone asks them about their new special interest. She boldly says...
you can continue in a second, but it reminds me of that scene in Danbury's Ball in episode 1 where she's surrounded by all the debutantes and the one girl's talking about stitches and she goes, "And what is your favorite stitch?" or whatever like that. And she's like, "Well, since you have asked," and it's the same thing. Like, she asked somebody who's really interested in something and she's not interested in it, and then they're going to talk because she was really just trying to get them to, talk so she could look around, and it went like totally wrong because she wasn't paying attention. And here she got sucked into the same thing because she got so excited that somebody wanted to hear what she had to say, and like Cressida really didn't listen.
No, and
sorry for interrupting. That just popped up.
It's okay. I said, very bold statement of me to make, given that we are literally doing a podcast on our very own special interest right now, like pot calling kettle black for sure.
Yeah, true. But yeah, like, she is about to go into her special interest. And I think that, again, here she is about to experience a very similar situation to one she had created for someone else, where she made them feel crappy, right? Because she did not pay attention to it at all. And then she demeaned it a little bit. And then Cressida, unbeknownst, kind of does the same thing by ditching her to go jump into the husband game.
Yeah.
And yeah, so she's getting a lot of karmic moments. Eloise, this season for Eloise is karma.
Yeah. So we're going to wrap it up there because I know my little man is going to be walking in that door at any moment and he is very needy of my attention right now. Oh, hi, Ezra. Is it going to show him? He's at my window. Yeah, literally, I have so many notes. So I'm going to try and wrap this up. Okay. For today, gentle listeners, we will leave it there and continue on next week's episode. If you have anything in particular you would like us to cover or any Bridgerton knowledge you would like to share, please head to our Facebook page, The Ladies Bridgerton. And if you're enjoying our podcast, please remember to click follow on Spotify, Apple, or wherever you are listening. We are now over on YouTube, so please head over there for exclusive content. And you can find our Patreon at patreon.com/The Ladies Bridgerton.
And thank you for listening to the musings of two mad women.
Yours truly, Tash the Kiwi
and Lady Patty.